to Talking Junk. Talking Junk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every week with a new guest with some great information for your brain. Tonight is no different. Tonight we're being joined by Dr. Scott Kolbaba. We're going to talk about teen depression and ways to kind of rid yourselves of that on a cheaper note, not to get caught up in all the expensive bills. This is more for your mental and less about your pockets. So let's bring on, without further ado, Dr. Scott Kolbaba. How you doing tonight, Scott?
Jason, glad to join you.
The pleasure is all mine, and I'm glad to have somebody on here to get to the big issue, because teen depression is a huge epidemic in the United States right now, and I'm glad I can have you on to drop some knowledge on us.
Glad to be here. It is a huge epidemic. When you look at the statistics, it's mind-boggling. 3 in 5 teen girls these days have seriously considered suicide. That's a huge problem, and
Yes,
it's up 60% in the last 10 years. So,
wow. Now, how did you start to dabble in teen depression? First off, what kind of doctor are you? So just a physician.
Yeah, I'm a physician. I see regular patients in the office. I'm in internal medicine, so I do adult medicine and teen medicine. And I've been doing this for about 40 years. I know it's hard to believe. I started when I was a baby, 40 years ago.
Wow.
And I've enjoyed it. We're involved with the Northwestern University, and I'm one of the docs that works in the adolescent psych unit at one of their facilities, Central DuPage Hospital, in the western suburbs of Chicago. So I've done that for about 20 years, and I enjoy it. And I've had some very interesting and depressing, sometimes, circumstances. And what really got me into this, Jason, is when I was called to the ER to see a little girl. And as I was walking through the busy ER, I heard this sobbing in one of the rooms, and that was the room I was headed to. And as I opened the door, there on a gurney was a comatose, beautiful 13-year-old girl, totally unconscious. She looked like she was dead, but I could tell she was breathing shallowly. Her mother was holding her hand, which was cold as ice, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. The father was sitting there, and also, with his hands in his head. It was an incredible scene, and what we did then was we had to rush her off to the ICU. We intubated her, we pumped her stomach, we did all the stuff that you needed to do because she overdosed on her mom's pills. And so it was a touch and go night, but we got her going. And kids are pretty resilient, they're pretty strong, and she survived.
Thank God.
Yeah. But that was one of the things that got me thinking about, here's one girl that tried to commit suicide. There must be girls like that at every hospital throughout the country that same night that have done the same thing. And I was trying to understand how I could do more than just take care of one individual or a couple individuals here and there. And so I gave it a lot of thought, and finally I came up with a book, which is Clara's Magic Garden. And it's a kid's book about a little girl that was in the same circumstances as 13-year-old. She didn't think she had any friends. She didn't think she was pretty. If you've been around little girls, oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got 7 kids, and it seems like every girl and many times the boys too think that they're not good enough. They're not athletic enough. They're not pretty enough. They don't have any friends. And Clara ultimately transforms into a happy, fulfilled girl, and it kind of gives a model for other girls that may be going or may go through the same thing. So that was the start. And then
Is this artwork from the book?
Yes, it is.
It's beautiful artwork.
We had a Swedish artist that did a phenomenal job of the artwork. And so it was kind of fun. I've never done a kid's book before. I did an adult book, but I've never done a kid's book before. But it's fun to see the artwork come in. And, you can, Sweden obviously is far away. We never actually met her personally. We've done a lot of work with her on Zoom. And so you can really do a lot of stuff anywhere in the world. And we just doing books for and others in Africa and Europe, all over. So we found her in a group of about 200 or 300 artists, and it turned out to be really, really good. And so the book has won some awards. We've won an Amazon bestseller, and now we're out promoting the concept that we wanted to bring out in that book. And the concept is find your purpose. We think, my son and I, who wrote the book, Florine, think that if kids have a purpose, they do better, and they tend not to be depressed, and they wake up in the morning with something to do. And when I was working in the psych unit a couple of days ago, I asked the staff, how many of these kids that are in here? We have a psych unit that holds about 14 kids. So how many kids in this unit here have a purpose? And everyone, the psychiatrist, the social workers, said no one has a purpose. And it's something I think that's free. It doesn't cost anything. And the problem that we have today is you need someone to help encourage you with that purpose. And
Right.
What we're trying to promote, Jason, is having the parents or a significant other, an uncle, it can be anyone, help the kids find their passion, what they love. And, most kids have a passion. They love something. They love writing. They love football. They love drawing, whatever. And if you can take that passion and promote that becomes their purpose. And then if you use that purpose to help others, the American Psychological Association feels that is their definition of a purpose. Finding your passion, pursuing it, and helping others with it. And if you do that, you will very likely either not be depressed, or if you are depressed, that will help get you out of it. And the purposes can be anything, and it can change with time too. When I was a kid, for example, I was interested in hot air balloons. Did you ever ride in a hot air balloon, Jason?
I have not, but I have to before I kick the bucket.
Yeah. I've never ridden either. We tried, it was kind of expensive when I was a kid. My parents weren't very well off. So they got me involved with all kinds of crazy things. We went all around the Midwest to see balloon festivals. I took a big oil barrel and cleaned it out real well and put some hot coals in there. Thank goodness it didn't blow up. As a kid, I can imagine this thing blowing up in my backyard. And then I put the vacuum cleaner with the reverse. So the air was going into the barrel, and then the hot coals were there, and then the hot air would come out the other hole. And I attached a weather balloon to the other side, and the weather balloon filled with hot air. But unfortunately, what happened is it got too cool as it came into the balloon, that it never rose. But that was my attempt to do.
That's pretty innovative. How old were you?
I was probably 10 or 11.
Wow.
And the fun thing was I had parents that would go along with my crazy ideas. I collected rocks for a while, and I had so many rocks that the desk I had shelves or drawers that the bottoms would fall out because of all the rocks. And they were very supportive. They knew I was a little bit different, and they supported my crazy ideas, and it made a big difference, because now as I've gotten older, I have bigger ideas, and I'm able to make those work because that's my purpose. And so if kids get indoctrinated into what purpose is, that makes a huge difference.
Now, you mentioned that you've been at this teen psychiatric stuff for about 20 years, so about half your tenure as a physician. After you've seen this young girl and her family struggle, did you have to, let me backtrack a second. Did it click in your head that this is exactly what you wanted to do? And did you need to take more necessary training to be able to deal with the teen depression?
Actually, how things kind of evolved in many cases, and it took me probably years to really to really develop what my purpose would be in this regard. So I started to research teen depression, and I started to understand a little bit about what are the things that help teens. And there's lots of stuff. As a general internist, I see teens all the time that are depressed, and we pass out medications and do counseling and things like that. But one of the things that's happened after the pandemic is that there aren't enough health workers, psychiatric and mental health workers to go around. So if I have someone that's seriously depressed and I want to get a psychiatrist involved, it takes 3 months to find a psychiatrist in our area. That's and
3
longer.
months
Yeah,
per kid. Wow.
yeah, and that's pretty universal around the country. Everyone is really busy these days, and there aren't enough mental health workers to go around. Even counseling takes a while. So I tried to reason what would be something that we could do, that we could promote, that would help with this pandemic, with this epidemic of depression, that wouldn't require an expensive psychiatrist, that wouldn't require a mental health worker that you can't get in to see. They estimate that 11%, at least 11% of the people that have significant depression, or 5 million people, will never be able to get mental health professionals. So what are the things that can bring a kid out of a depression? And my son and I, after doing some research, found that this idea of purpose is significant. And there's lots of studies about finding your purpose, relieving depression. There was one study called the Midas study. There were 7,100 people in that study, and they found that people that had a purpose had more resilience, were able to handle problems better, and they just had a better attitude on life. And they also found not only were they happier, but they were healthier. And that was kind of an interesting. And Jack Canfield has also weighed in on that. So people that have a purpose are healthier. There was another one called from the Journal of Clinical Psychology. They analyzed 66,000 people, and they found that purpose was significantly associated with a lower incidence of depression and anxiety. So, and we're finding that if kids find a purpose, that they will much less likely be involved with suicide or end up in the psych unit. And people sometimes ask me, well, how much commitment does that take? It may not take a huge commitment. Let me tell you a story about our grandkids. We got 7 kids. I'm not sure where they all came from, Jason, but we got 7 running around somewhere.
Hey, I got 3 myself, so I understand.
We have a low bar
for nowhere.
We have a low bar for success, and that is that no one's in jail. Okay, so that we've achieved that success.
Well, that's a good success.
I was visiting our kids in Phoenix, where most of them live now, and I was talking to my 2 grandkids. I got 2 boys there, and I said, well, why don't we go fishing today? And so there aren't many fishing holes in Phoenix, as you can imagine. So we got some fishing poles, and we went to a little pond in the middle of Phoenix. And you can imagine how many fish are in this little pond in the middle of a big city. So we fished for about 2 hours. No one got hooked, thank goodness. We hooked a bunch of trees and tin cans in the water, things like that, but no fish. So I thought, what a waste of time. This was a very unsuccessful outing because we didn't see any fish, we didn't catch anything. So we let that go and we went on with our day. About 2 years later, my little grandson came up to me. He said, Grampy, that fishing trip we took a couple of years ago? And I said, yeah. And he said, that was the best day of my life.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Amazing.
So you never know. The point is, you never know when you encourage someone to find a purpose, and they love fishing. They are still fishermen. You never know what influence you might have, and it can be as simple as that. Generally, however, to help a kid find their purpose, you need to be involved with them a little bit. You need to kind of be an example to them. You need to have a purpose yourself,
right?
And that teaches by example. And then you need to help them through some of the bumps in that. Maybe if they're interested,
as a parent, you should help them with all the bumps.
You really should. You really should. I've got an interesting example of some of the bumps that we ran into. My daughter, Luci, we adopted. we adopted a bunch of kids. I'm not sure how many anymore and where they came from, but anyway, Lucci, was started out as one of those girls that a little awkward and maybe didn't think she was good enough and so forth. And she got involved in the show choir. Show choir changed her life. It was a wonderful thing for her. Show choir kids sing and dance on risers. So here they got high heels on. They're on these stands that look like bleachers. They are bleachers, and they're singing and dancing. No one fell off. No one was hurt. I was the official team doctor.
It must take immense talent to be able to do that.
So they took off. We had a big contest in a place called Onalaska, which is just a little about 3 or 4 hours away in Wisconsin from Illinois. And so we got on the bus. They got on the bus, and we followed the bus about an hour later. And about an hour and a half or 2 hours into the trip, we got a call from Lucci, and she said, "Dad, there was a little fire in the bus, but we're okay. Don't worry." And so it didn't sound like very much, but she sounded pretty shaken up. So I was my wife was much more attuned to life and things with the kids than I was. I thought,
As they are.
She said, "There's something going on here." And then about an hour later, when we came to where the bus would have been, we saw this huge black bus that was all burned up, and it was an incredible. The whole bus caught on fire. And the story is this: when they were going up to the facility, where there was a flat tire, and the piece of rubber came off the tire, and it went around and around and generated a lot of heat and caused a fire in the back of the bus. And when the bus driver realized that, he pulled off right away, and there were flames that were coming up the side of the bus and underneath the bus, and the girls were all screaming. Wow. They couldn't get out the back end of the bus. They could only get out the front. My daughter was one of the last ones, and there was smoke filling the whole bus. No one could see where they were. The flames were licking up on the sides. It was an incredible event, and everyone was afraid that they were going to catch on fire any minute and be killed. And what's interesting is the second bus. There were two buses in the group. The second bus pulled up behind the first bus, and that's when they first found out that there was a fire, because the kids in the second bus texted the kids in the first bus. And what they said was there was something that was absolutely miraculous that happened. As the flames were going farther and farther into the bus, all of a sudden, as if there was a giant hand that went over the bus, and the flames died down. And they died down enough that the girls could get out of the bus. When the last girl jumped off the ramp to get off the bus, the flames went up again, and they went through the entire bus with a huge roar. And it incinerated everything in the bus except the kids. The last girl had just jumped off the bus.
That must have been heavily traumatic for them.
That was incredibly traumatic. It was traumatic for all of us. And the interesting thing is, I think I've got a picture of here's the picture of the bus that one of the kids took. God. Is that something? It's a little blurry, but it just was taken on the spur of the moment. And so everything was burned up except the kids, and they finally made it back to the hotel about 2 a.m. And when they got there, the choir director said, "Okay, all the costumes are burned up. We have 52 kids. Makeup's gone. Everything's gone except the instruments." And she said, "But we're still going on tomorrow." So they had a show at 10 o'clock. They moved it to 11 o'clock, and they decided to go on. Well, what happened then is, the principal of the school discovered that there were some costumes in the school where we came from, Wheaton School District, and there were 26 costumes that were there. And in the morning, when they got up early, they discovered that Onalaska High School had 26 costumes in their storage that were contrasting. They were sequined purple. Ours were sequined silver. So we had 26 costumes. My wife was the costume maker, and so she was just going crazy with duct tape and pins and needles trying to fit all these girls into these unfitted costumes. And we finally made it about 10:30, and they went on stage after that, and they sang. Everyone knew what happened to them, and they sang Jimmy Eatwald's. I think it was Jimmy Eatwald's story and song about everything will be all right, little girl, everything will be all right.
Wow.
And it brought the house down.
Wow.
Everyone was in tears. And so Lucci realized that we can overcome all kinds of things if you just put your mind to it. And then they announced the winners, and they would announce the third place winner, second place winner, first place winner. We weren't one of the winners, but we thought, we still accomplished a lot. Then we realized there was a grand champion, and we won the grand champion. And here's the girls, picture of the girls right there.
Wow.
Celebrating
Grand champions.
champions. So if you run into situations that involve rocks in the road, thanks, Jason, you can overcome them. So my encouragement to parents is keep with the kids, encourage them to pursue their passion and their purpose. And that will go a long way to keeping them healthy and literally healthy and also mentally healthy. So
Wow.
that was our.
Well, one of my purposes right now for this podcast is to pay the bills. So we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more Dr. Kolbaba for teen depression. Stay tuned.
Me and my team, whenever we link up, they're gonna be drink up. We sit down, relax, and have few glasses when there's things to think about. Like I'm nice with the boss when I tend to the bars, and I'm not talking drink ups. So tell the bartender that's tending the bar to please pass me a big cup up. And tell that waitress is waiting on us to put a little ice in it. Now watch the ice become weightless like the spaceships that I be sitting in. No wait and listen, no, they're waiting for that tropical twist that'll tickle your taste buds. Now taste some. Now I insist it's the Dizzle.
Welcome back to the podcast. Go and get you a bottle of Dizzle right now. Appease the sponsors. Let them know Talking Junk Network sent you. Now, right back to the topic at hand. That was a magnificent story of hardship and triumph. But one of my biggest questions to take away from all of this would probably be like children, they're ever growing, they're forever changing their minds. And I know little things could set them back. Now, what would happen to a child, or have you seen this before, where a child's purpose kind of fell by the wayside, whether they weren't able to do it or circumstances weren't good enough to keep them into this purpose? Could that set them back in a major way, or?
Yes, it could. It could. And what we like to do, like I said, we have 7 kids, so we've been through all this. And one of the things that we do is we like to talk with our kids. And, if you've got kids, Jason, they come home from school.
Girls.
Yeah. And you say, well, how was school today? And they say, well, fine. What'd you do? Nothing. How was it? Oh, it's fine. Did you meet any new kids or anything like? No, we're fine. So, to do that is almost impossible to get any meaningful conversation. So the kinds of conversations you need to get involved with would be things like a dinner table conversation. That can be helpful. And we always like to have dinner with our kids. But the big one that we found is taking a walk with the kid. And we have a little neighborhood with a kind of a circular road. It's about a half mile. And I'll say to my son or daughter or whatever, let's go for a walk. And they love to go for a walk. We take our dog. We've got a Newfoundland dog who's 150 pounds. And the dog walks us, but we walk behind the dog. And in a conversation with a walk, you learn a lot about what's going on with your kid. And you learn about what they're interested in. You learn about what they're doing in school and what they like to do. And one of our kids, Nathan, was interested in football. But his coach in the freshman year told him he should probably drop out. He was in the B team. He was a marginal player in the B team in the freshman year, and the coach said to drop out. So and that's
Out
pretty
here.
that's that's pretty unusual that a coach would say that. I was kind of surprised, but Nathan was pretty down in the dumps. So we encouraged him, to do some workouts and to do some things that would get him better. And he started to do that. He started to work out and get stronger and lift weights and all the things that you do. And that was that. We came across that, that passion
Now,
on a walk.
it's a shame that a coach would do that, because any good coach knows that confidence starts in the mind. So you have to nurture the mind in order for them to nurture their body and therefore enhance their skills in that said sport. Whoever that coach was is jackass, and he should have been fired.
Well, so Nathan, started on this journey that he had a purpose now. His purpose was to become a good football player. And so every year he worked harder and harder, and he made this sophomore team, and then he made the junior team is the varsity team. He made the varsity team, but he wasn't playing. And then one of the kids was hurt, and so they put Nathan in as a linebacker, and that game he got 4 sacks, and
Wow.
after that he was a regular player on the team, and he was the only kid in the whole high school to go on to play Division I football at a Division I school, and we watched them on TV. So that was a great, phenomenal thing for him. That served him well, and it serves him well throughout his life.
Right.
That he was able to overcome that.
And now he can tell his coach to, "I'll have respect since you're on, sir." And I won't say what I was going to say. But
Well,
he can SMD, definitely.
Yeah, just knowing that the coach knows how successful he has become is retribution enough. He doesn't have to say anything.
It is. It definitely is. But he still deserves to be said. For somebody to tell him sad. It's an acronym, and I will not give you the words to that.
Well, that in answer to your question, what happens when a kid gets bounced and has some rough times, and you just encourage them. If that's their passion, to continue to work at it, and if they do, amazing things happen. Like with Nathan, that was absolutely incredible, and we're so proud of him. He never went on further. He played in Division I school, but it was fun to see him pursue his passion, pursue his purpose, and he became an example to other kids that had the same kind of problem, that they didn't think they were good enough, and so he used his purpose to help others, and that's what
Wow.
we think will help with any depression.
Now, early on, you mentioned there were 14 beds in your psychiatric unit.
Yes.
Is it very typical for those beds to be filled?
It's a very interesting question, Jason. When school starts, the beds tend to be filled, but when school's out, we close the place down, because no one is admitted to the adolescent psych unit when there's no school. When it's summertime, the kids are out, and so one of the things that obviously contributes to significant depression is the stress of school. So academic performance is one of the big ones. There's other big ones that we can talk about, but that is one of the big ones. And again, if a kid needs to be admitted, we admit him to the adult psych unit in the summertime. But there's almost no kid that ends up in the psych unit in the summertime, at least in our area. And I suspect
Everybody wants to have fun.
That's true. That's true. So
now you mentioned I can see academics being somewhat of a big pressure on somebody's psyche, but could it stem a lot from human interaction as well?
Exactly. And what we're seeing in human interaction especially is bullying. Bullying is a huge thing, and what happens when kids are bullied, the CDC and the organizations that study this feel that increases your risk of suicide by 2 to 9 times if you're bullied. And so that's one of the big ones, is bullying. And the other issue that happens and where you can be bullied is social media, and we're finding that social media
Cyberbullying.
is a huge cause of teen depression, because you can be bullied online and either not know your person that's bullying you, or when you're one-on-one, it's a little harder to bully someone, but when you're not one-on-one and not face-to-face with someone, it's a lot easier to do that bullying. And so we've experienced that in our family. One of my daughters, Jordan's her name, was being bullied by a little kid. This is in grade school, and a little boy. And so it's interesting in our family that the older kids always look after the younger ones. Is that true for your family too? Are they the older ones? Do you have older ones that
My middle child tends to try to be the mother of the group.
okay.
She tries to be. My oldest, she watches out for her sisters, but she's more, those are your kids. I don't want to take on that kind of responsibility yet. I'm still young, and I understand it, but she's a lot of kids don't get that your siblings are who you need in life later on, because your parents aren't going to be there for too long in your life. But I think when she realizes that they'll all be best of friends, not that they don't get along now, they just have sisterly fights, which is normal. But I think the nurturer would be my middle child.
Well, my son, the football player Nathan, heard about this bullying for Jordan. So he dressed up in his football outfit. He got his shoulder pads on, his jersey on, and he got on the bus with Jordan. And the first thing he said is, "Who's that kid that's bullying you, Jordan?" And she pointed out to the boy, and Nathan walked right up to him, put his face right to, face to face, and he said, "If you bully my sister anymore, you're going to answer to me." And it's amazing. The bullying just stopped right then. There's no more bullying.
That's how it's supposed to be.
And so that was a nice solution to the bullying problem. But that is a significant problem, and that is a significant cause of teen depression when you're bullied by your friends or anyone. So
now, you mentioned just a little while ago, you said there are other factors that can cause considerable damage to one's psyche to cause depression. Can you contribute most of those things to adverse childhood experiences?
Many of them are. The things like we mentioned bullying, the social media stuff can be a bad childhood experience, the academic stresses, and then there's the home situation. What we're experiencing in this country today is in our, we've got 7 kids. They're all out of the home and they're working and trying to make a living. And the cost of living has gotten so much. I mean, some of these kids are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're struggling to make ends meet. And I can see when, one of the things that contributes to stress in the home, especially between parents, one of the main things is money. And if you don't have any money and you're worried about the bills coming in and the bill collector and so forth, that causes a great deal of stress in the home. And that also then is reflected in the kids too. So the kids feel that stress. And so that is another cause of a depression. It's the strife in the home, and that may lead to a divorce, which is a huge factor for kids. And they always seem to blame themselves. My parents got divorced because of me is what they're thinking in many cases. So that's again, that's one of the stressors that cause kids to get depressed.
Now, if you had the chance to reach the ears of every teenage child on this earth right now, what would your message be to them?
Message would be find a passion, realize your passion. Look for something that you love to do. If it's writing, if it's taking care of animals, if it's sport, pursue that passion and get someone to help you, get a parent to help you to meet some mentors in that area, to get a job or a volunteer in an animal shelter, for example, or a volunteer in a nursing home or whatever it is. If you like to play the piano, and ask for lessons in your piano, and so that would then when you start to do that, you'll develop that as your purpose. And if you use that to help someone else, that will be huge in helping relieve a depression. Now, I always ask the kids that I see in the psych unit, what do you love to do? And they all have something that they love to do. Frequently it's writing, frequently it's art. Animals are a big item. And I say to them, well, who have you told your parents this? Invariably, they say no. They haven't told their parents that they love this particular thing that they like to do. So tell your parents, get some help. If your parents can't be helpful, see if you can find a friend or an uncle or a neighbor that might help you a little bit, or someone that is in the field that would like to show you. I frequently take kids for tours to the hospital that might be interested in medicine. So get someone that can help you realize your purpose and help you with that. So that would be the thing that seems to be one of the most beneficial things to help relieve a depression in an adolescent young man or woman.
Now, you do have another book coming out. What is this book about?
Yeah, I've got actually, this is my first book. This is called Physicians Untold Stories. And that's this one here. And I'm obviously a doc, and I work with a bunch of docs. And these are stories that are about miraculous experiences in doctors' lives, and things that you can't explain scientifically. I can probably give you an example. There was a orthopedic surgeon that was kind of burned out and needed to have a break, so he decided to go skiing. He's an expert skier with his wife and his wife's sister. So they went to Colorado, and they found this mountain that they hadn't ever skied down before, and they went to the base of the mountain, got on the lift, and as they were going up the mountain, there was a blizzard that hit all of a sudden. It came up really suddenly, and the wind was about 40 miles an hour, and the snow was coming down and upside down and sideways in all directions, and they could hardly see where they were going, but they had to ski down the mountain. So they put their skis on, they got a map out to see where they're going, and then they started skiing down. And the visibility was like 10 or 15 feet. And they came to a grove of trees where there was the path was either to the right or the left. And the orthopedic surgeon, Steve is his name, decided to go to the right. The girls went to the left, and when Steve realized that the girls weren't with him, he decided to go through the grove of trees, and it was like 5 foot of powder snow. He's an expert skier, it's no problem for him. But as he started to go into the grove of trees, he got this feeling of dread in his chest. He felt like there was something that was life and death experience that he was going to be facing, and he didn't know what it was. He just had this very, very unusual feeling in his chest, and so he stopped skiing. And he knew the girls were waiting for him, so he's standing there not knowing what to do. So he took off his skis, and then he decided to walk up the mountain into the woods, into the forest. Now, he had no idea what the heck he was doing. Why would he be walking up the mountain in a blizzard with the girls waiting for him on the other side of the grove of trees? And he's walking and climbing and walking and climbing, and then he came to a tree. And when it snows a lot, there's a thing called the tree well, which is where the snow goes down to the base of the tree trunk. And so he looked down, and he knew why he was there. There under the tree was the shape of a body. A skier had hit the tree, and he was already covered with snow. Now, Steve is a trauma surgeon, so what a perfect guy to have on your side in the middle of a blizzard when you're half frozen. So this guy was totally unconscious. Evidently, he couldn't see the tree, hit the tree, and was knocked unconscious. Had Steve not seen him, he wouldn't have been found until the spring.
Wow. And I was going to make a Sonny Bono reference there, but I will refrain.
Yes, Sonny Bono didn't have Steve with him. That's the problem.
I'm sure. It was very lucky that Steve was there, and his instinct was very spot on.
So he dressed the broken leg. He called for help. They eventually got the ski patrol to come up, brought the unconscious guy still was in shock down to the lodge where they had called the ambulance, took him to the hospital. And then Steve skied over to the girls that were waiting for him on their side. They went down the mountain. He got his reward, which was a cup of hot chocolate. And the next day he called the hospital to see how the guy was doing. They said he's perfectly fine. He's got a broken leg, but otherwise he's perfectly fine. And he thanks you for literally saving his life.
He was lucky.
So those are the kind of stories that I was able to collect. And docs don't talk about this stuff. And they don't because they're afraid that people will think they're crazy. And I've got a whole book of those kinds of goosebump stories that you simply just can't explain scientifically. There's just something out there that I think helps direct us at times to do some crazy things that make a huge difference in our lives and the lives of somebody else.
Definitely does. So you got the chicken soup for the soul doctor's edition.
That's pretty much what it is.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Doc, I appreciate you coming on, and I know you're a very busy man, and you have things that you got to take care of outside of this wonderful podcast we're on here. So why don't you take this time now to let the people know where to find you, where to find your books, and most importantly, to the teenagers that may want to reach out and get some guidance from the master himself. Where can they go?
I've got an office in Wheaton, Illinois. My phone number there is 630-668-5985. There's the two websites are physiciansuntolstories.com and clarasmagicgardenbook.com. My address, I've got a post office box in Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. It's post office box 4407. So it's Scott Kolbaba, post office box 4409, Wheaton, Illinois. So that's how people can get in touch with me, either by mail or on the website, or contacting me directly at the office. I'm passionate about helping kids overcome their troubles, because they can. And I think this is a way. Finding a purpose is a way that you can help your child, that the kids can help themselves in overcoming a depression, and it doesn't cost anything.
All it takes is one person to make a difference.
Yeah, it does. So I want to thank you, Jason, for having me on and helping me pursue my purpose, and appreciate all the listeners too.
The pleasure was all ours. We enjoy getting the insight on these topics, and what better way than to do it on a social platform so everybody can listen, everybody can take in what they need to take in, and hopefully make their lives or somebody else's lives just that bit easier.
I agree. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Can you tell the people thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk?
Yeah, I appreciate you talking junk with us. So thanks for listening. I think it's an important topic that share with your friends and your kids.
Definitely. I'll be right back with you, Doc. Let me close this out. To all you guys out there, thank you for tuning in. As always, we have information that may help somebody in need that you don't even know is in need. It all it takes is one person to notice and make a difference. It could be anything. You just got to open your eyes, know your kids' patterns, know your friends' patterns. Once you see that they're in that place, then try to get them out. Give them a purpose. Let them know that your purpose is their well-being. And I can guarantee you'll make somebody's life that much better. Don't forget to grab those books and tune in again next week. We're starting to try to do the double guest shows. We had somebody not able to make it tonight. Shout outs to Craig. But we'll be sure to keeping on and giving you that great content for your minds. Take them away. Love you. Peace out.
Thank you for tuning in to Talking